What happens when a single act of kindness costs you everything? For Bella Rossi, a waitress struggling to survive, that moment came at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. The man she helped wasn't just another drunk. He was Dante Castello, the city's most feared and powerful mafia boss. She thought she was just getting him home safe. She was wrong. She thought she'd be fired for her trouble. She was wrong about that, too. 1 week later, she didn't just get a tip, she got the entire hotel. But this gift wasn't a reward. It was a cage. The Grand Imperia Hotel was a monument to old-world money, a glittering palace of marble, brass, and cut crystal chandeliers that reflected the lights of Trinity Park. For Isabella Bella Rossi, it was just a job. A grueling, thankless job where she wore down the soles of her $20 shoes, walking miles of plush carpet, balancing trays of champagne and half-eaten steaks for people who never made eye contact. Her shift had technically ended an hour ago, but a private party in the Viceroy Lounge had run late, and her manager, Mr. Reynolds, was a weasel of a man who preyed on the desperation of his staff. "Just clear the last 2 tables, Rossi," he'd sneered, his eyes lingering on her black uniform a second too long. "And try to smile. You look like your dog just died." Bella had no dog. She had a tiny apartment with bad plumbing and a younger brother, Leo, whose community college tuition was due. So, she smiled. It was a tight, brittle thing that made her jaw ache. She was clearing the last of the champagne flutes when the man stumbled through the lounge's oak doors. He was a disruption, a flaw in the Imperia's perfect facade. The lounge was empty, save for her, the busboy vacuuming in the corner, and Reynolds counting receipts at the bar. The man didn't seem to notice them. He was tall, dressed in what was clearly an outrageously expensive Brioni suit, but it was rumpled, the jacket hanging open, the silk tie pulled loose. He wasn't just drunk, he was wrong. He moved with a disjointed grace, like a panther with a broken leg, and collapsed into the booth she had just finished wiping down. "Table 4. Reynolds hissed from the bar. "Rossi, get him out, we're closed. Call security." Bella picked up her silver tray, her feet throbbing. She just wanted to go home. She approached the man, her "Sir, we're closed" speech ready on her lips. Then she got closer. His head was down, his dark hair falling over his forehead. A Patek Philippe watch, worth more than her annual salary, was loose on his wrist. But it was the coppery smell beneath the heavy scent of expensive whiskey, Macallan 25, she guessed, that made her pause. "Sir?" she said softly. He looked up. His eyes were the most intense grey she had ever seen, but they were unfocused, clouded with pain and alcohol. There was a fresh, shallow cut on his temple, leaking a slow trickle of blood into his hairline. "Get out!" Reynolds snapped, marching over. "Sir, you need to leave, now, or I'll have you removed." The man blinked, trying to focus on Reynolds. He made a sound, a low growl of frustration. Bella saw it then. Tucked into his waistband, visible where his jacket had fallen open, was the dull black grip of a handgun. Her blood turned to ice. This wasn't a drunk businessman. This was something else. Reynolds, oblivious, reached out to grab the man's arm. "Did you hear me?" "Don't," Bella said, her voice sharp, surprising even herself. Reynolds froze. "Don't touch him," she said, her eyes locked on the man. She stepped between him and Reynolds. "Sir, you're bleeding. Are you a guest at the hotel?" The man stared at her. For a second, the fog in his eyes cleared, replaced by a sharp, calculating intelligence. He seemed to catalogue her, the cheap shoes, the tired eyes, the defiant set of her jaw. He didn't speak. He just watched her. "I'll handle this, Mr. Reynolds," Bella said, not looking away from the man. Please, just go back to the bar." Reynolds scoffed. "Fine. He ruins the upholstery. It's coming out of your paycheck." He retreated, muttering. Bella turned back to the man. "You're a guest, right? What's your room number?" He just looked at her. He seemed to be fighting a battle inside his own head, struggling to surface. He fumbled with his suit jacket, his fingers clumsy. A black hotel keycard and a set of heavy, intricate keys fell onto the table. The keycard was for the penthouse. The PH was embossed in gold. That meant he was the guest, the one who had rented the top floor for a year, the one the staff only whispered about. Dante Costello. The ghost. The man who supposedly owned half the city's shipping, half its nightclubs, and all of its shadows. And he was bleeding in her station. "Okay," Bella whispered, mostly to herself. "Okay." Penthouse. She looked at the private elevator at the far end of the lounge, the one that required a special key. He had the key. "Come on," she said, her professionalism taking over, pushing the fear down. "Let's get you upstairs. You can't stay here." She slid her shoulder under his arm. He was heavy, all dense muscle, and smelled of whiskey, winter air, and that faint, sharp tang of blood. He let her take his weight, his feet dragging. "Reynolds," she called out. "I'm taking him to the elevator." Reynolds just glared. "Your funeral, Rossi." She half dragged, half walked him the 30 yards to the brass-plated elevator. He was mumbling now, incoherent words. Something about betrayal and the Irishman. She used his hand, the one with the key card, to swipe the panel. The doors slid open with a quiet, expensive shush. She guided him inside. The doors closed, encasing them in the small, wood-paneled box. The man sagged against the wall, his eyes closing. He looked younger than she'd thought, maybe early 30s, and dangerously, tragically exhausted. "You're almost there," she said, her voice sounding strange in the silence. His eyes snapped open, and he focused on her. The fog was gone, replaced by that chilling clarity. His voice was a low rasp, like stones grinding together. "Who are you?" "Bella, I work downstairs." He stared at her for the entire ride, a heavy, unblinking gaze that made her want to crawl out of her skin. The elevator dinged softly, opening directly into the penthouse foyer. She had expected opulence. She found a sterile, cold expanse of black marble and glass. It looked like no one lived here. It looked like a tomb. "Where's your bathroom?" she asked. He just grunted, gesturing vaguely down a hall. She guided him into a massive, dark bedroom. He collapsed onto the edge of the king-sized bed and didn't move. He was still breathing, but he was out. Bella stood there, her heart hammering. She should leave, she should run, but the cut on his head was still weeping blood. He could bleed all over the $1,000 pillows. Cursing her own conscience, she found the cavernous bathroom, grabbed a first aid kit from under the sink, a bottle of water, and a white hand towel. She returned to the bedroom. He was exactly as she'd left him. Her hands shaking, she gently pushed his hair back from his temple. She opened an antiseptic wipe, the alcohol smell sharp. "This might sting," she whispered. She dabbed at the cut. It was shallow, just a graze, but it needed cleaning. He didn't flinch, but a low sound vibrated in his chest. As she worked, her waitress-trained eyes scanned the room. There was nothing personal. No photos, no books, just a charging phone on the nightstand. And, on the massive desk across the room, an open laptop. Its screen cast the only light in the room. She finished cleaning the cut, placing a small bandage over it. She set the water bottle and 2 painkillers on the nightstand. Her work was done. She could go. But the laptop drew her gaze. She backed away from the bed, moving slowly. She told herself she was just looking for the door. But she drifted toward the desk, drawn by a morbid, terrified curiosity. She was 10 feet away. 5. She could see the screen clearly. It wasn't a stock portfolio or an email. It was a list, a simple spreadsheet. There were only a dozen names. Her eyes scanned them. Finian Doyle, Anthony Ricci, Senator Morrison, and then, near the bottom, a name she knew, Arthur Harrison, Mr. Harrison, the owner of the Grand Imperia Hotel, the man who owned her paycheck. Next to his name, in a column highlighted in bright red, was a single word. Terminate. Bella's breath hitched. She clapped a hand over her mouth. This wasn't a business list. This was something else. She heard a rustle of fabric from the bed. She spun around. Dante Castello was sitting up, his grey eyes wide open, sober and locked directly on her. The fog was completely gone. He had seen her read the list. "Get out," he whispered. Bella didn't need to be told twice. She bolted. She ran through the foyer, slammed the elevator button, and didn't breathe until the doors closed, separating her from the man and his terrifying secret. The elevator's descent was agonizingly slow. Bella leaned against the walnut paneling, her legs trembling so hard she was surprised she was still standing. Terminate. Terminate. Arthur Harrison. The word echoed in her head, a drumbeat of pure dread. She hadn't just helped a drunk guest. She had walked into a predator's den and read his kill list. When the doors opened into the silent, empty lounge, she ran. She didn't clock out. She didn't bother with the staff locker room. She ran through the service corridors, pushed open the heavy steel door into the pre-dawn alley, and didn't stop running until she was 3 blocks away, hailing a taxi on Lenox Avenue. She spent the ride home checking the rearview mirror, convinced a black sedan was following her. Her apartment felt flimsy, the lock on her door like tissue paper. She shared the small one-bedroom with her brother, Leo, who was asleep on the pull-out couch, his textbooks fanned out around him. He was studying to be an architect, her smart, good-natured brother who was her only reason for working at the Imperia. She looked at him, and the fear sharpened into a new, acidic terror. What had she brought to their door? She showered, scrubbing her skin as if she could wash off the penthouse's sterile cold, the smell of whiskey and blood. But she couldn't wash away the image of the laptop screen. She didn't sleep. The next day, she called in sick, and the day after that. She couldn't bring herself to go back. She sat in her apartment, jumping at every car horn, her phone a dead weight in her hand. She expected a call, a knock, a black car idling at her curb. Nothing came. By the 3rd day, reality set in. Rent was due. Leo needed a new drafting kit. Her fabricated stomach flu wouldn't pay the bills. On the 4th day, with her stomach in knots, she put on her uniform. She had to go back. She had to pretend nothing had happened. He was drunk, she told herself. He was passed out. He didn't see her. He wouldn't remember. She prayed he wouldn't remember. When she walked into the staff entrance of the Grand Imperia, the atmosphere was wrong. Usually, the morning shift was a buzz of gossip and complaints. Today, it was silent. People were clustered in small, whispering groups. Her friend Maria, another waitress, grabbed her arm. "Bella, where have you been? You missed it." "Missed what?" Bella asked, her heart sinking. "Mr. Harrison," Maria whispered, her eyes wide. "He's gone." "Gone? Like on vacation?" "No, Bella. Gone. Vanished. Hasn't been seen in 2 days. His wife is frantic. The police are here. Detectives are everywhere. They're questioning everyone." Bella felt the floor tilt. Terminate. It hadn't been a drunken note. It was a prophecy, or a command. "And Reynolds?" Bella asked, trying to sound casual. "He's loving it," Maria spat, "strutting around like he's the new king. He's been telling the detectives he was the last one to see Harrison, that they had a late-night meeting. He's such a snake." Bella nodded, a numb coldness spreading through her. The week crawled by. Every time a guest looked at her, she flinched. Every time the elevator dinged, she expected him to walk out. The detectives questioned her, but it was brief. "When did you last see Mr. Harrison?" "A few weeks ago, sir. In the lobby," she lied. "Did you work the night of the 4th? Bella's blood ran cold, the night she'd helped Dante. "Yes, in the Viceroy Lounge." "Did you see Mr. Harrison? He supposedly had a meeting with Mr. Reynolds." "No, sir. It was just a private party. Mr. Reynolds and I closed up." She conveniently left out the part about the penthouse. The police didn't seem to have access to the private elevator logs. She had survived. She was in the clear. Or so she thought. Exactly 1 week after that night, Bella was in the middle of a double shift, covering for a sick colleague. The lunch rush had been brutal. Her feet were screaming. She was in the main dining room, polishing silverware at a side station, her mind a million miles away, calculating if she could afford both rent and Leo's books. "Ms. Isabella Rossi." The voice was deep, smooth, and cut through the restaurant's clatter like a knife. Bella dropped a fork. It hit the marble floor with a loud clang. She turned. 2 men in immaculate, dark grey suits stood behind her. They were not guests. They were not police. They were built like bank vaults, and their eyes were flat and emotionless. "Yes?" Bella said, her voice a squeak. "Please come with us," the taller one said. It wasn't a request. Maria shot her a terrified look. Bella untied her apron, her hands shaking so violently she could barely manage the knot. The men didn't lead her to the staff area. They led her past the front desk, past the concierge, and straight to the bank of guest elevators. They rode up to the mezzanine level, where the hotel's executive offices were. They walked down the plush-carpeted hall to the largest office, the one with the double oak doors, the one with the brass plaque that read, "Arthur Harrison, Proprietor." One of the men opened the door and gestured for her to enter. Bella walked in. The office was in chaos. Boxes were everywhere. Mr. Harrison's awards were off the wall, his expensive model, ships gone. Mr. Reynolds was behind the desk, his feet up, smoking one of Harrison's cigars, talking animatedly on the phone. "No, I'm telling you, I'm in charge now," Reynolds was saying. "The transition will be seamless. I have it all under control." He saw Bella and the 2 men. He scowled. "What is this? Rossi, I didn't call for you. And who are you 2? Get out. This is a private—" A third man, older, with silver hair and a leather briefcase, stepped out from the corner. "Mr. Reynolds, I presume? You'll want to take that call." He gestured to the phone. Reynolds's bluster faded. "What?" "It's the board," the silver-haired man said. "They have a message for you regarding your employment. Specifically, its termination." Reynolds's face went white. "You can't. I'm running this hotel." "No," the man said simply. "You are not." He turned his polite, cold eyes to Bella. "Ms. Isabella Rossi?" "Yes," Bella whispered. The man snapped his fingers. One of the suited guards placed a thick, leather-bound portfolio on the desk in front of her. "My name is Mr. Graves," the silver-haired man said. "I am an attorney representing the new ownership consortium of the Grand Imperia Hotel." "The new ownership?" Bella stammered. "Mr. Harrison?" "Mr. Harrison has divested his interests," Graves said smoothly. "As of 9:00 a.m. this morning, the controlling interest of this hotel was transferred." Reynolds, still on the phone, had gone a pasty, greenish color. He hung up, his hand trembling. "They fired me. After 20 years, they just—" "Please vacate the premises, Mr. Reynolds," Graves said, not unkindly. "Security will escort you to collect your personal effects." Reynolds looked at Bella, his eyes filled with a sudden, venomous hatred. "You! What did you do?" "I nothing," Bella said. "Get him out," Graves said. The two suited men gently but firmly lifted Reynolds by his elbows and escorted him, sputtering and threatening lawsuits, from the room. The door clicked shut, leaving Bella alone with the lawyer. "I don't understand," Bella said, her entire body shaking. "Why am I here? Am I being fired too?" "Quite the contrary, Miss Rossi." Mr. Graves opened the leather portfolio. He spun it around for her to see. It was a deed, a thick, daunting stack of legal documents. "Mr. Dante Castello, the primary stakeholder of the consortium, is a man who believes deeply in reciprocity," Graves said, his voice precise. "He understands you rendered him a significant personal service 1 week ago. He does not like to remain indebted." He pushed a pen toward her. "The Grand Imperia Hotel is, as of this moment, hemorrhaging money. Mr. Harrison's extracurricular activities have left it on the brink of insolvency. Mr. Costello does not have time to manage a failing hotel." He tapped the signature line. "Congratulations on your promotion, Miss Rossi. You are the new owner." Bella looked at the document. Her name was typed in crisp black ink. Isabella Rossi, proprietor. She looked up, speechless at the lawyer. "Welcome to management," Mr. Graves said with a thin smile. "You start immediately." Bella didn't move. She stared at the signature line, at her own name, at the impossible, terrifying words. Proprietor, owner. "This is a joke," she whispered. The room was spinning. "Mr. Costello does not have a sense of humor, Miss Rossi," Graves said. His tone was not unkind, but it was absolute. "He believes in payment for services rendered. You performed a service. This is your payment." "A service?" I gave him a bandage. "You were discreet," Graves corrected. "You helped him to his room when others," he gestured to the door where Reynolds had disappeared, "would have called the authorities or, worse, the press. Mr. Costello values discretion above all else. He also values loyalty." The unsaid words hung in the air. "And he knows what you saw. This wasn't a reward. This wasn't a lottery win. This was a leash. This was a statement. I know who you are. I know where you live. And now, I own you." "I can't," Bella said, her voice shaking as she backed away from the desk. "I can't own a hotel. I'm a waitress. I don't know anything about this." "You will learn," Graves said simply, "or you will fail. The choice is yours. But the deed is filed. The transfer is legal and binding. You are, whether you like it or not, the new owner of the Grand Imperia." "And if I refuse?" Graves's polite mask tightened. "Refuse what? The building? It is already in your name. You can, of course, attempt to sell it. But you will find the market for a hotel leveraged this heavily, with entanglements, is non-existent. Mr. Harrison found that out." The casual, chilling way he said it confirmed her worst fears. Harrison hadn't just divested his interests. He'd been terminated, one way or another. "So I'm a prisoner," Bella said, the realization dawning. "You are an owner," Graves corrected. "A businesswoman. Mr. Costello has, in fact, taken a great risk by placing this asset in your hands. He expects a return on his investment." "What investment?" "He gave it to me. He gave you Mr. Harrison's $8 million debt to his suppliers," Graves said, pulling another file from his briefcase. "He gave you the outstanding union contracts. He gave you the $500,000 renovation bill for the spa that Mr. Harrison abandoned mid-construction. This hotel is a sinking ship, Miss Rossi. Mr. Costello wants to see if you will learn to swim or if you will drown. He finds the prospect entertaining. Bella sank into one of Mr. Harrison's, now her, plush leather chairs. She was trapped. If she walked away, she'd be a loose end, a witness, the kind of person who ended up on a list with red letters. If she stayed, she was a puppet, a front for the mob. "What about my brother?" she whispered, the fear for Leo overtaking her own. "Leo, he's a promising architecture student at City College," Graves said, without checking any notes. "He lives with you at 400B, Lenox Avenue, a bright boy. It would be a tragedy if his sister's poor business decisions were to impact his future." The threat was delivered as smoothly as a room service order. Bella's spine turned to steel. The fear didn't vanish, but it crystallized into a cold, hard anger. They would not touch her brother. She picked up the pen. Her hand was perfectly steady. She signed her name, her signature, a sharp, angry slash on the dotted line. "Good," Graves said, nodding. "Now, your first order of business. Mr. Reynolds is gone. You need a new general manager. I don't know anyone. Fortunately, I do." Graves smiled, and it was the smile of a shark. "I will be taking on the role of general manager, effective immediately. My services are provided by Mr. Costello's consortium, so you needn't worry about my salary. I will handle the books. You will handle the face of the hotel." "The puppet," Bella said bitterly. "The proprietor," Graves corrected again. "Now, your staff is in a panic. They've just seen 2 owners vanish and 1 manager frog-marched out in a single week. They need to see their new boss. What will you tell them?" Bella stood up. The cheap, polyester blend uniform suddenly felt like a costume. "I'll tell them the truth, that the hotel is in trouble, but that we're going to fix it. That the era of mismanagement is over." "Bold," Graves said, a flicker of genuine surprise in his eyes. "Very well. Let us begin." He led her out of the office and to the grand staircase overlooking the main lobby. He rang a small silver bell, and the staff, waitresses, bellhops, concierges, her former colleagues, gathered at the bottom. They stared up at her. Bella, in her scuffed shoes and waitress uniform, standing where Mr. Harrison used to give his bombastic Christmas speeches. They looked confused, scared, and, in some cases, amused. "That's Bella Rossi," she heard someone whisper. "What is she doing up there?" Bella gripped the cold brass railing. "Good morning," she said, her voice amplified by the lobby's acoustics. "My name is Bella Rossi. Many of you know me. As of this morning, I am the new owner of the Grand Imperia Hotel." A collective gasp went through the crowd. Maria's jaw dropped. "I know this is sudden," Bella continued, finding a strange strength. "And I know there are rumors. Here is the truth. This hotel has been mismanaged. We are in debt, and things are going to change. Mr. Harrison is no longer involved. Mr. Reynolds has been dismissed." A few scattered, nervous claps at that. "I am not a hotel executive," Bella said, deciding on honesty. "I'm a waitress. I know what it's like to work a double. I know the linen closets are bare, and the kitchen freezers are failing. I know what's broken. And with your help, I'm going to fix it. My door is open. Your jobs are safe, if you are willing to work with me to turn this place around. That is all." She turned and walked back toward the office, ignoring the stunned silence and the frantic burst of whispering that erupted behind her. Mr. Graves was waiting by the door. "An interesting speech, Miss Rossi. My door is open. Very populist. You've given them hope, a dangerous commodity." "They're good people," Bella said, walking past him into her office. "They just had a terrible boss." "Speaking of terrible bosses," a new voice said. Bella froze. Dante Costello was sitting in her chair, behind her desk, casually spinning one of Harrison's antique globes with a single finger. He was sober, perfectly put together in a razor-sharp charcoal suit, and looked as if he'd never seen a drop of alcohol in his life. The cut on his temple was gone, leaving only a faint, pale scar. "Mr. Costello," Graves said, bowing his head slightly. "We were not expecting you." "I like to inspect my new investments," Dante said, his grey eyes fixed on Bella. He stopped the globe. "So, this is the new boss, the waitress. Tell me, Miss Rossi, what's your first order of business? Restocking the linen closets?" Bella met his gaze. The terror was still there, but it was buried deep beneath the cold anger. "No," she said. "My first order of business is firing the hotel's laundry service." Dante raised an eyebrow. "They've been overcharging and under-delivering for 6 months, Bella said, drawing on years of staff room complaints. "Half our sheets have holes. They're owned by a company called Apex Linen. I suspect Mr. Harrison was getting a kickback." Dante looked at Graves. Graves nodded slightly. "She is correct. Apex is one of Harrison's shell companies." Dante turned back to Bella, a slow, dangerous smile spreading across his face. It was the first time she'd seen him smile. It wasn't comforting. "A waitress with an eye for logistics," he mused. "Perhaps this won't be so boring after all. Fire them, Miss Rossi. Fire them all. Let's see what you can build in the ashes." He stood up, buttoning his suit jacket. He walked past her, pausing at the door. "Oh, and Ms. Rossi," he said, turning back. "A word of advice. You're the boss now. Buy yourself some new shoes." He was gone. Bella looked down at her $20 loafers. Then she looked at the phone on her new desk. She picked it up. "Get me a list of every commercial laundry service in this city," she said to the empty room. "And get me the head of housekeeping. Now." The first month was a trial by fire. Bella moved into a modest suite at the hotel, a decision born of necessity. She couldn't protect Leo if she was living with him, and she couldn't run a 24/7 operation from her tiny apartment. She sent him money, more than he'd ever seen, and told him she'd gotten a massive promotion to head of operations. It wasn't entirely a lie. She worked 20 hours a day. She lived on stale croissants and coffee from the room service carts. She learned that Mr. Graves, her general manager, was less a guide and more of a warden. He was impeccably polite, ruthlessly efficient, and his true allegiance was never in doubt. He controlled the hotel's accounts, which, he explained, were all routed through Mr. Costello's financial services. "You are the creative director, Miss Rossi," he explained one evening as they reviewed the disastrous bar receipts. "I am the executor." Bella discovered the gilded cage was more rust than gold. The suppliers Harrison had been using weren't just giving him kickbacks. They were all owned by Dante Costello. The meat, the liquor, the Apex Linen, she had so boldly fired all of it. When she'd tried to hire a new linen service, Graves had gently intervened. "A noble effort, Miss Rossi," he'd said, "but you'll find Citywide Linens, the only other viable vendor, is currently unable to take on new clients. An unfortunate fire at their main warehouse. Apex has graciously agreed to resume services." She was trapped in his ecosystem. She couldn't fire his companies. She couldn't hire new ones. All she could do was manage the inside of the hotel. So that's what she did. She started in the kitchens. She'd been a waitress. She knew the staff. She promoted the sous chef, a talented woman named Claire, to head chef, bypassing the lazy, credit-stealing executive chef Harrison had hired. She rewrote the room service menu, focusing on quality over the needlessly complex, and often frozen, dishes they'd been serving. She retrained the front desk. She walked the floors. She talked to the bellhops, the janitorial staff, and the concierges. She learned their names. She learned their problems. Her old friends, like Maria, were distant at first. She was the boss now. But when Bella approved the overtime Maria had been fighting Reynolds for, and when she personally helped housekeeping turn over rooms during a surprise convention booking, the ice began to thaw. They started to see her not as a puppet, but as one of their own, fighting for them. Dante Costello was, as his nickname suggested, a ghost. He never visited. He never called. But she felt his presence everywhere. She felt it in the way Mr. Graves always knew which vendors she was calling. She felt it in the sudden, unexplained health code violations that shut down a rival hotel across the street, and she felt it in the black sedan that was always parked across from the hotel entrance, day and night. One evening, 6 weeks into her new role, she was in the main floor restaurant, her restaurant, reviewing the new wine list with Claire. The hotel was actually turning a small profit. Bookings were up. The changes were working. She was almost happy. Ms. Rossi. She looked up from the wine ledger. A man was standing at her table. He was handsome, with a disarming smile, bright blue eyes, and reddish-blonde hair. He wore an expensive, but softer, tweed suit. He looked completely out of place in Dante's world of dark, sharp edges. "Can I help you?" Bella asked. "Finian Doyle," he said, extending a hand. His accent was a faint, melodic Irish brogue. Let's call it a developer. I'm in town looking at new opportunities, and I have to say, I'm enchanted by what you've done with this place." Bella tensed. Finian Doyle. The name from the laptop. The name Dante had mumbled in his drunken state. Betrayal. The Irishman. She did not take his hand. "Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Are you a guest?" He laughed, a warm, easy sound. "Not yet. I was hoping to speak to the owner. I heard the most fascinating story, that the new proprietor was a Cinderella, plucked from the staff. And here you are." His charm was a physical thing, like a warm front. It was the complete opposite of Dante's cold, reptilian stillness. "I'm very busy, Mr. Doyle," Bella said, standing up. "Oh, I'm sure," he said, his smile never wavering. "A place this big with so many complications. It must be a terrible weight on such young shoulders, especially when the hotel's real owner is a man like Dante Costello." Bella's blood ran cold. "I am the owner, Mr. Doyle," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "Of course you are," he said, soothingly. "Just as a man who holds a tiger by the tail is in control. Listen, Miss Rossi Bella. May I call you Bella?" "No." "Bella," he continued as if she hadn't spoken, "I know what you've stepped in, and I'm here to offer you an out. A real one. An out? I want to buy this hotel from you, cash. $10 million. That's $1 million for every finger, as my da used to say." Bella stared at him. $10 million. It was more money than she could comprehend. It was freedom. It was a new life for her and Leo, far away from Dante, from Graves, from this entire city. "Why," she whispered. "Let's just say I enjoy irritating Mr. Costello," Finian said, his blue eyes twinkling. "And taking his newest, shiniest toy would be very irritating indeed. You get to be free. I get to win. Everyone's happy." "I can't," Bella said, her mind racing. This was a trap. It had to be. "Think about it," he said. He slid a business card across the table. It was thick, cream-colored stock. Finian Doyle, Doyle Hospitality Group. "You're not a queen, Bella," he said softly, leaning in. You're a prisoner. I'm offering you the key. Take it." He turned and walked out of the restaurant, leaving Bella staring at the card. $10 million. She was still standing there, the card in her hand, when Mr. Graves appeared at her elbow. "An interesting proposal, Miss Rossi," he said, his voice clipped. "You were listening? Security in the restaurant is excellent. Mr. Doyle is a known competitor of Mr. Costello's." "He's offering to buy the hotel," Bella said, testing the waters. "It would solve all our problems. The debt." "The debt is to Mr. Costello," Graves said. "He does not want a payout. He wants the hotel." "He wants me," Bella said, the bitterness rising. "That I cannot speak to," Graves said, "but I would strongly advise you to dispose of that card. Entertaining Mr. Doyle is treason, and Mr. Costello does not suffer traitors, as Mr. Harrison so recently learned." The threat was bare. Bella looked at the card. The key. She slowly tore it in half, then in quarters, and dropped the pieces into a nearby water glass. Graves nodded, satisfied. A wise choice. Now, about the Q3 projections. But as she turned back to the ledgers, Bella's mind was racing. Finian Doyle thought she was a toy. Dante Costello thought she was a pawn. Mr. Graves thought she was a puppet. They were all about to find out how wrong they were. The encounter with Finian Doyle shifted something in Bella. The fear remained, but it was no longer paralyzing. It was a whetstone, sharpening her resolve. She was a piece in their game, but even a pawn, she reasoned, could cross the board and become a queen. She started to play her own game, right under Mr. Graves's watchful nose. She knew she couldn't break Dante's supply chain. So, she optimized it. If she was forced to buy his overpriced liquor, she would train her bartenders to upsell it, increasing the bar's margins by 30%. If she was stuck with his linen company, she'd implement a new, high-tech inventory system that cut down on loss, staff theft, and waste, saving thousands. She started to use Mr. Graves. She would casually mention her ideas to him, frame them as his own, and let him present them to Dante's consortium. "Mr. Graves," she'd say, "I was thinking about your brilliant idea to renegotiate the convention center's block booking rates." Graves, a man who clearly loved efficiency and order, began to see her as a genuine asset rather than just a figurehead. His reports to Costello, she guessed, became less about the waitress and more about the asset. But Finian Doyle wasn't done. A week after their first meeting, he returned. This time, he didn't come to the restaurant. He booked the hotel's most expensive suite, one level below the penthouse, under a false name. Bella found him waiting for her outside her office. "Tearing up my card, Bella. That wounds me," he said, that easy smile still in place. "You need to leave," Bella said, her eyes darting down the hall toward Graves's office. "You can't be here." "I'm a paying guest," he said, "and I have a new offer. 20 million, and a plane ticket, anywhere in the world. You and your brother. Tonight." Bella's breath hitched. Leo. He knew about Leo. Of course he did. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded, her voice low and fierce. "This isn't about me. This is about him. What did he do to you?" Finian's smile finally faded. His blue eyes went cold, and for a second she saw the man who could go to war with Dante Costello. "He took something from me," Finian said, his voice flat. "Something irreplaceable. In Dublin. Years ago. He builds. I take. He takes. I take. It's the only language we have left. And you, my dear, are the most public, most insulting thing he's built in a long time. I'm not a thing, aren't you? You're a message. He's telling the whole city that he can pick a girl up off the floor and make her a proprietor. That he's a kingmaker. It's arrogant. And it's a weakness. His weakness. You are his weakness. I'm not his anything, Bella spat. Then prove it. Sell me the hotel, cripple him, disappear. You have 24 hours, Bella. After that, my offer goes down, and my methods, they get less charming. He turned and walked away, whistling a cheerful, discordant tune. Bella went into her office and locked the door. She was shaking. You are his weakness. Was she? Dante hadn't spoken to her since that first day. He was a phantom, a ghost who pulled her strings through graves. That night, she couldn't sleep. She paced her suite, the $20 million offer burning in her mind. Freedom. She could take Leo to Italy, to the places their grandparents were from. He could study architecture in Rome. They could be safe. All she had to do was betray the man who had terminated her last boss and who knew exactly where her brother slept. If she took Finian's offer, Dante would hunt her. If she refused it, Finian would see her as an enemy, and he was clearly just as dangerous. She was caught between two monsters. There was a knock on her door. It was 2 a.m. She froze. "Ms. Rossi," a voice said. Not Graves, not Finian. She opened the door. One of Dante's faceless, suited guards stood there. "Mr. Costello wishes to see you." Now. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. He knew. Graves must have told him about Finian's second visit. She was escorted to the private elevator, the same one she'd taken a lifetime ago. The ride was silent. The elevator opened into the penthouse. Dante Costello was standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, a glass of dark liquid in his hand, staring out at the city lights. "He's very charming, isn't he?" Dante said, his voice quiet. He didn't turn around. "Who?" Bella asked, her voice trembling. "The Irishman." "Finn. He always was good with words. It's the only thing he is good with." "I told him to leave," Bella said. "He offered you $20 million, Dante stated. "It wasn't a question." "And a new life for you and your brother. Leo." He turned around. His grey eyes were flat, devoid of emotion. "You're thinking about taking it. It's a good deal. You'd be a fool not to." "Are you testing me?" Bella asked. "I am curious," Dante said. He walked toward her, slow and deliberate, like a predator. He stopped just a foot away. She had to tilt her head back to look at him. "I gave you a kingdom, Bella. A broken, bankrupt kingdom, but a kingdom nonetheless. And at the first sign of a rival army, you're considering selling the crown." "You gave me a cage," Bella burst out, the fear and frustration of weeks finally breaking through. "You gave me debt. You gave me a warden. You didn't give me a choice." He stared at her, a long, unnerving silence stretching between them. She could smell the faint, clean scent of his suit, the cold night air clinging to him. "A choice," he repeated, as if tasting the word. "You had a choice the moment you decided to help me instead of letting Reynolds throw me in the gutter. You had a choice when you read my laptop. You had a choice when you signed the deed. You have always had a choice, Bella. You just don't like the consequences. What do you want from me?" she whispered, tears of rage in her eyes. "I want you to run your hotel," he said, his voice dropping to a low growl. "I want you to fix the broken thing I gave you. I want you to stop being a waitress, playing at being a boss, and be the boss." "And if I take Finian's offer?" Dante's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "He will give you the money," Dante said softly. "He will put you and your brother on a plane. And before that plane reaches cruising altitude, it will suffer a catastrophic, unexplainable mechanical failure. His out is just another cage, Bella. A smaller one. A coffin." He was so close now, she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "So, you have one more choice to make," he murmured, his gaze dropping to her mouth. "You can fail me, or you can fail him. But you can't serve two masters." He raised a hand, and for a heart-stopping second, she thought he would hit her. Instead, his thumb brushed her cheek, a touch so light it was almost imaginary. "What's it to be, Miss Rossi? The Irishman's imaginary millions, or this?" He didn't wait for an answer. He turned and walked back to the window. "Mr. Graves will have a new task for you in the morning. A hospitality challenge. Don't disappoint me." "That's it?" Bella asked, confused. "That's it. Get out." She was dismissed. She backed into the elevator, her mind reeling. He hadn't punished her. He hadn't yelled. He had simply laid out the facts. As the doors closed, she realized the truth. Finian was wrong. She wasn't Dante's weakness. She was his test, and she had just passed. Bella had won a brief respite, but Finian Doyle wasn't finished. The next morning, Mr. Graves summoned her. "We have a situation, Miss Rossi," he said, his usual calm cracking. "Mr. Doyle is refusing to vacate his suite. He's claiming unsatisfactory services and has moved in 2 bodyguards. He is, in effect, squatting." Bella's first instinct was simple. "Call the police." "And tell them what?" Graves countered. "This is a civil matter, but it's also a declaration. He's planting a flag, daring Mr. Costello to remove him forcefully. He wants us to bring in thugs to create a scene to attract the police." Bella understood. They couldn't use force. "Fine," she said. "If he's a guest claiming unsatisfactory service, we'll give him satisfactory service." She began a campaign of 5-star psychological warfare. She sent complimentary champagne to his room, followed immediately by emergency plumbing repairs in the adjacent suite, which involved loud, continuous hammering. When Doyle complained, Bella personally answered, her voice dripping with artificial sympathy. "My deepest apologies. We have a burst pipe. Can I send you a complimentary massage voucher for your trouble?" An hour later, the hammering stopped, replaced by a system-wide test of the fire alarms. She had his room service orders accidentally lost and had housekeeping mistakenly. Try to enter his room for turn-down service every 30 minutes. By 6 p.m., a furious Finian Doyle stormed the lobby, roaring, "This is harassment, Miss Rossi." Bella faced him, the picture of professional concern. "Mr. Doyle, I am so sorry. It seems we've had a series of unfortunate accidents. Since you are so dissatisfied, I have taken the liberty of voiding your bill. You are, of course, free to leave. Immediately." Checkmate. He couldn't stay without paying, and he couldn't fight her polite, public generosity. Defeated and humiliated, he and his men left. Bella, feeling a rush of victory, stepped outside for air. A black car glided to the curb. Dante Costello was inside. "Get in." They drove in silence to the dark, industrial wharf district. "That was amusing," Dante said. "Hammers. Very rustic. You embarrassed him. He'll become sloppy." He stopped the car at the end of a dark pier. "Finian is a problem," Dante said. "He thinks I took something from him." He handed Bella a folder. Inside was a death certificate for Finian's brother. "Finian thinks I had his brother killed." The truth? His brother was an Interpol informant. They faked his death, and he's living in Australia. Finian's entire vendetta is based on a lie. "Why are you showing me this?" Bella whispered. "Because he's planning to hit a shipment of mine. Right here." "Tomorrow night," Dante said. "He's going to try and intercept it. When he does, the police, tipped off by an anonymous source, will be waiting. The shipment isn't valuable goods. It's counterfeit pharmaceuticals. He'll go to prison for 25 years. You're setting him up. I'm ending a hospitality challenge, Dante corrected. But he needs a final push. He needs reassurance from a source he thinks is compromised. The trap snapped shut in Bella's mind. Me. You want me to be the source? You want me to betray you? He already thinks you're terrified, Dante said. You'll tell him you've changed your mind, trade him this information for his 20 million and safe passage. He'll be in a cell for the rest of his life. You will be free of him. And I'll have proven my loyalty to you, Bella said, the words like ash. This is the last move, Bella. Checkmate. Are you in? She looked at the dark water, thought of Leo, and gave the only answer she could. Yes. The plan was set in motion. Bella, using a burner phone, called Finian, her voice trembling with manufactured fear. She betrayed Dante, offering him the shipment details in exchange for escape. Finian, blinded by pride, bought it completely, telling her to meet him at a private airfield at midnight. But Dante never intended for her to go. The next night, Graves drove her to a high-rise apartment overlooking the wharf, where Dante waited with binoculars. They watched as the night exploded with sirens. The FBI, tipped off by Dante, swarmed Pier 12 and arrested Finian's men, seizing the counterfeit shipment. "But where is Finian?" Bella whispered. "He's at the airfield, waiting for you," Dante said, his voice cold. "But my men got there first." Bella realized the terrifying truth. Dante had set 2 traps, one for the police and one for himself. "You're a monster," she breathed. "Yes," he said. "But I am your monster, and you my queen." Back at the hotel, he pulled her into a brutal, possessive kiss. It wasn't love. It was a brand. "You're not a waitress anymore, Bella," he said. "You're mine." She walked into her lobby, the owner of a kingdom, and the property of its true king. Bella got her kingdom, but it came at the cost of her soul. She's no longer a waitress, but is she an owner, or just a more valuable possession? She defeated one monster, only to find herself in the arms of another. The game of power, loyalty, and betrayal is far from over in the Grand Imperia Hotel. What do you think Bella should do next? Try to escape? Or learn to play the game better than the man who taught her? Let us know your theories in the comments below. This was a dark, twisting story, and if you loved the drama, please show your support. Don't forget to like this video and share it with a friend who loves a good story. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. We post new dramatic stories every single week, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Thank you for listening.